Welcome to the basic editing timeline/tools tutorial for Premiere Pro. So let's go back to our project and let's go over what some of these things are. So this is where your files will show up. This is your preview window for those raw files. As you double click them, they'll show up over here. This is where you trim and edit those files, and we will drag them into our timeline down here. There's a bunch of functions that I'll show you over here. Here's our basic tools. I'm going to just show you a couple of them, and then once our footage is in here, we can preview it in this window. Those are the absolute basics within there. So if I double click on this one, I could drag this whole clip into the timeline. You just click on the image and drag it in. Now, anytime you drag in the first clip, this window, this little thing should show up. It says doesn't match the sequence settings. Even though it's highlighted in yellow, click change sequence settings, because it'll now change this window to match what your footage is. So it'll be proper. It won't be too zoomed in or like a different aspect ratio or anything. But so I could drag the whole clip in, but most of the time don't want to do that. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to preview over here, so I can either push play and it'll play, or I can click on this yellow, click on the yellow thing there, and I can drag it along. I can drag it along to find out where I want to start and stop, or I can click frame by frame to find out exactly. So for this clip, I want it to be right there. I'm going to start it. So right here, this bracket, that is mark in, and then I just want the kick, so boom. That's where I'm going to mark it out. And then now when I click to drag this in, it's only going to bring that section. And place that in. So there you go. That's our first clip. So I'm just going to randomly get a couple other clips. Get that tackle. I'll see what else randomly this is. Okay, so I want to start there. And I'm just going to get that dodge of the tackle there. So if you notice, as I drag clips in, I'll get one more here. As I drag them in, when you bring them close to the edge of the last clip, they suction cup together, which makes it so you're not going to have gaps in between them. Okay, so I have a few clips in there. Now right here, so the only ones we really used here, we've moved this along, we've used the play button, maybe the frame by frame ones, mark in, mark out, and you could change some of these things. Don't have to worry about it. But let's say we were just going to drag in. So these two ones are important because we could just click on this, and if you notice, and I'll explain this later, but these bottom ones are the audio piece to the video piece here. So right now, by clicking this and dragging in, we only drag in the video. So if you didn't want the audio, you just drag that in. And then vice versa, if you just want the audio, you can just drag in the audio as well. So that's really it in this for the basic editing things in that window. Now if we want to preview this all together, we now go to this window and we can push play. Same buttons, everything, but we can just push play there to see. So you've noticed it's kind of choppy. The footage isn't really flowing very well. but we'll address that in a second. These clips, and they're pretty small, right? We got all this workspace, and yet the clips are only that small. So this bar right here, you can use it to shift down, or if you click on the little squares here, you can zoom in and expand your footage so you can get a closer look at whatever you're dealing with. Like many other programs, the eyeball means if I want to hide that layer, I don't want to see it anymore, you can click that. Or maybe you're working on something on a different layer. This is where you can lock this layer so that you can't do anything to it. And maybe you want to lock the audio too. An example might be you might want to lock the video. Let's say you dragged in the video and audio, but you don't want the audio anymore. Well, you'd lock the video, highlight the audio that you want to get rid of, and then just delete, and then it would be gone. I'm going to keep the audio for now. So those are two important ones there, lock, eyeball. And then, so same thing as above, the little yellow toggle here, you can scoot along with it to go by, to skim along your footage to see where you are. A couple other important things, this yellow line right here, that means if you click on the yellow line, you can make your footage darker. Well, it's actually making it more transparent, and whatever's behind it will show up. So in this case, black, there's no footage behind it, so the black starts showing up. So if you accidentally drag that down, it's going to mess with your footage a little bit. And then if you click the triangle here for the audio, you do the same thing for the audio. So you can, if you want one clip to be quieter, you can drag it down and make it quieter. You can make something louder, obviously. You can change the volume of each clip individually if you go through it like that. That's pretty much the basics there. And you can still like move stuff along. If you want to put a different clip in there, you can move things around along the timeline. And then over here we have some of our basic tools. And right beside it, if you notice when I push play, you'll see the audio show up over here. So if you want everything to be the same level, then you can sort of test each one and see where it goes to, and then adjust up and down to make it match. So you notice this was, at the high end, was like -6, -12, somewhere in there. So these tools. Selection tool, if you ever accidentally click on something and you can't understand why you can't just grab something, you've probably clicked on something different. The two main ones that off the start that you should learn, I'm going to show you, is just selection tool. That's your main one to be able to click and move. You can also go to the edge with the selection tool and you can shrink clips down. So maybe you made it too long before, or maybe it's too short and you want to extend it out. You can still do that. You don't have to be perfect in your original cuts up at the top. And then another good one is the razor tool. That one is wherever your line is. Wherever the line is, you can go with the razor tool and click, and it'll make two separate clips. So you can, if you wanted it in two pieces, you can now take this and stretch it out and do something over here if you wanted, but I don't want to. And then we'd be back up to here with our files. So there's icon view. So if you want a different view, this will put it in numerical order, or this will put it in the order that you import it in. So if we import new stuff, they'll start showing up here. This way, it puts it in numerical order or alphabetical order in a list. And then this is just bigger icons, smaller icons, nothing big there. If you want to delete something, you can click on it and hit delete, or you can use delete. And that is the basics there. Now, the last thing, so I remember I told you that the footage was kind of choppy. So one other basic thing I'll show you is how to render. So this, if we stretch this back out, we can see this bar here at the top. That's actually, if you're going to export your project, that's the section that'll export. Or if you're going to render it, that's the section that'll render. So if you want to render everything, then you'd highlight everything with this bar. But if you just want, let's say, just this middle clip or just these first three, then you highlight those. If you want to just save some time and render that. So then all you do is you go to that section, you go sequence, and you're going to render entire work area. And you'll just kind of wait, and it'll render, and you'll see it turn green right here. It'll start turning green, then this one will turn green, this section when this clip is done. And then this one will turn green when this section is done. So then now when we watch it, it should be rendered. It still looks kind of choppy. But anyway, that's how you render. Sometimes it'll be red, sometimes it'll be yellow. Then you just render your footage so it looks good. And when we export, that'll iron everything out even better. Alright, that's it for the absolute basics of Premiere Pro. See you next time.